Hey, what's up, everyone? Morey here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Ferdinand Omanyala's 979 world leading, and it's the first 9-7 run of 2024, this Olympic year, and really getting into some of the things that stand out within his foot contact time, backside mechanics, some things he does very, very well within his sprinting form, and we can see him here in lane 4. That's going to be the main focus for this video. It's going to be just on Ferdinand Omanyala, and when we first look at how he's getting set up here, we can see his hands are fairly narrow. When you consider like Ben Johnson, who is super wide with his hands, you could see how close together, and even some of the other athletes here and where their hands positions are. Not necessarily saying it's a bad thing, just something that kind of stands out in terms of how he's getting set up. And then his first movement, we could really see, especially for his size, that he's very upright in his initial action there. He gets a lot of range within the arms, and I think that's what helps out with getting a little bit more of an upright spine position. Is now you're going to be in a position where you could start to be able to get more momentum going forward a lot sooner into your race, and really allows you to get a lot more action or a lot more strength out of the arms. So people that are more lean forward in this position, you're not going to get as much extension within the arms, and you're also not going to be able to get as much range of motion within the legs. Both things that are going to end up, I think, having an impact when it comes to being able to continue with your drive phase and get more into your top speed. Another guy here who's just not getting very much height within his spine, and therefore not going to be able to run as fast. Another thing that stands out, and this is what we're seeing with a lot of these top athletes that are really good within their acceleration, is very wide with his foot position, right? That second step there is pretty wide outside of his hips. Okay, and then back into that same type of thing here with that third step. He's a little wide with the knees here. You know, we'd want to be able to see more of the knee coming straight through, but again, pretty good positioning within the foot in comparison to the hip, and not that that's a bad thing with the knee coming a little bit wider there, but really good with his extension within the arms, really good at being able to maintain a quick foot contact time as he is accelerating, and then as he gets into the drive phase. And then there's also that asymmetry that he has within the upper body. So with his right arm, he's a little bit more wide, a little bit more on the outside, where the left arm's coming a little bit more straight through. And this is one of those things where I think it's important to have some degree of asymmetry there, or what asymmetry is essentially, it's different. Symmetrical would be the same on the right to the left. Asymmetry would mean that there's a difference there. And I do think it's important to have some degree of asymmetry in the arm swing in particular, because I think it gives more of an opportunity to create a transverse movement or transverse power within the core, and the transverse is more that rotational type of action. So if it's too symmetrical, then your arm swing is going to be much more of like a linear movement, and linear is good. It's just not as powerful. The most amount of power you're going to be able to get is going to be through that transverse plane, that rotational plane. That's going to be the same type of muscles that you're using when you're throwing or swinging, and it's important to use that plane when sprinting, and the best way to do that is to have some degree of asymmetry when it comes to the arm swing. And so you could see with the left arm, again, he's getting a lot more extension. Right side, he's a little bit wider. He still gets extension, but he's just a little bit wider. Now, for everybody, that's going to be a little bit different. We're not going to see the same type of asymmetry on both sides, but again, you could see kind of the difference here from this side as well with his body position. I think he does a really good job of staying in the drive phase as well. So we could see, or we saw, that the two athletes here on the sides of him, they stayed a lot lower during the start, those first few steps, but now that we're into the drive phase, we could see he's actually in a more forward position, or, you know, more in a drive phase type of position, lower within his spine, where these other athletes are popping up. And I mean, it could be this particular race that they're doing that, but it just shows that he's doing a very good job of staying patient through his drive phase. Now is when he really gets up into his top end speed, and I think he does a good job, especially for not having great knee height within his frontside mechanics, of still being able to get plenty of action within his ankle. So he gets nice and high with his foot, and then from there is able to generate a big pullback, and he has so much power in his foot strike. And that's another main thing that I want to talk about here, is when it comes to somebody running 979 like this, and having not amazing frontside mechanics, right? The right side, you can see it's definitely better than the left side, not getting as much height on the left side, but what he does end up having is just tremendous amount of strength within the pole. And this is something I talked about recently, where when it comes to running fast, you have to be able to generate a lot of power in order to get distance, right? And so for him being a little bit shorter, he still is very open within his stride, especially as he gets further into the race. You could see how open he gets within his stride length, stride distance, and a lot of that has to come from the amount of strength and amount of power that he's generating into the ground. So if you're looking to be able to improve your stride length, your stride distance, what's important is really putting a focus on generating more power or building more power within the legs, and then also utilizing that in your ability to run fast. So, part of it is building the strength. Another part of it is implementing it into your sprinting style. There's a lot of ways that you want to be able to work on being able to do exactly that. Now, we can see within his leg, he's very good with that right leg and coming straight up and through, getting that foot in a position where he's landing very straight, very much more towards the front part of the foot. Left side, he's a little bit wider with that left leg and how he's coming through. And I think that this is going to end up being one of those things that will end up being a difficult thing to be able to potentially come over when it comes to really getting into that next level or winning like a championship or a Olympic gold medal and stuff like that. Is, like you see Noah Lyles run, or we haven't seen Fred Curley run this year, but even like Oblique Seville, a little bit cleaner with the mechanics, where the left side, I think if we can get that left leg to stay a little bit closer and not drop so early, then we're going to be able to be a lot cleaner in that part of the stride. And that will really be, and I think that'll just be an important part of being able to run at the highest level, right? And being able to get into maybe even low 9.7s, 9.6, even would be having to be able to have a little bit more of a clean strike or clean leg cycle within that left side. I think there's a lot of things that he's doing really, really well here. Obviously, running 9.79 is a huge accomplishment and just shows that there's a ton of potential here. But the right side, with how clean the leg cycle is, how clean the foot contact is, there's so many things that are really good with this right side. The left side ends up being a little bit more, again, off to the side with how he's coming through, and ends up dropping that foot a little bit early. So that makes it so now you're landing a little bit further back on the left foot. And that's going to end up, I think, having a bigger impact when the races end up being just that much closer. You have to be able to maintain a high level of speed for a little bit longer. And it's going to be harder to do that with this type of running form. And we see this a lot with Ferdinand Omanyala, where he runs these really, really fast times on some of these tracks that I think set you up to have the ability to run really fast. And therefore the drive phase and getting top speed is really good. And then at the end, because what typically happens is you're running, you're getting to like 50-60 meters, you're continuing to accelerate, and then that last 40 you're basically kind of holding on to the speed the best you can, or slowly starting to decelerate. And when you get into the, again, higher level sprinters, what they're able to do is just decelerate at a lot better pace. And so when you have those tracks where you end up having to really have that great ability to control your deceleration or be able to finish that last 40 at a very high level, that's where the mechanics are going to end up being really important. And that's where something like this, it's going to end up kind of slowing you down a little bit faster, is going to end up having more of an impact on the final 30, 40 meters would be my guesstimation. And in comparison to here, where we could see a pretty strong finish, right? Because the track is kind of set up to allow you to be able to finish with a little bit more effectiveness, right? It's not going to slow you down as much. And so therefore we're going to see a little bit faster times. That's just my opinion. That's just something that I've seen with Ferdinand Omanyala in the past, and a lot of athletes. With that being said, with, running some great times in some of the tracks that are set up for really fast times, and then struggling a little bit more when it comes to like the championships, world championships, or this year with the Olympics. So, we'll see how this ends up working out, but just some things that I see within the sprinting mechanics that can get better, that can improve. As always, if you like the information, click that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We'll have a couple videos here to give you a little bit more information, go a little bit more in depth into some sprinting mechanics, some things that we see within this video that I think can help you if you're looking to get better from this particular information. You can click on these videos. They'll be able to help you, kind of guide you through that. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.